Welcome to True Crime Stories for English Learners, where real-life mysteries meet clear and simple English.
The Brinks robbery. It was a cold winter night in Boston. The date was January 17, 1950. Snow covered the streets, and the city was quiet. But inside a large building in the North End, something unusual was about to happen. At 7:10 p.m., a group of men quietly entered the building. They wore dark coats, gloves, and Halloween masks. Some carried guns. Their target was a company called Brinks. Brinks transported money for banks and businesses. Inside the building, there was a vault with millions of dollars. The men had planned this moment for years. The plan. The robbery was organized by a criminal named Anthony Tony Pino. He worked with another man named Joseph McGinnis. They spent 2 years planning the robbery. They studied the Brinks building. They watched the employees. They learned the daily schedule. The criminals knew exactly when the money arrived and when it left. Their plan had one important rule. The robbery had to be fast, very fast. Entering the building. On the night of the robbery, 11 men took part. They quietly entered the Brinks building. Inside, they found several employees working. The masked men pointed guns and told the workers to lie down on the floor. The employees were frightened but stayed calm. The robbers tied their hands. Then the criminals went to the vault area. They knew exactly where the money was stored. The robbery. The men worked quickly. They filled large bags with cash, checks, and coins. There was money everywhere. Boxes of cash, stacks of checks. In only 26 minutes, the robbers collected an enormous amount of money. When they finished, they left the building quietly. Outside, a getaway car waited. The criminals disappeared into the night. The biggest robbery. The amount of money shocked the police. The robbers had stolen about $2.7 million. At that time, it was the largest robbery in American history. Police immediately started an investigation. But there was a problem. The robbers had left almost no evidence. They wore gloves, they wore masks, and they worked quickly. For months, police had no suspects. The long investigation. The FBI joined the investigation. Agents interviewed hundreds of people. They searched houses and questioned criminals. But the case remained a mystery. Years passed. Still, the robbers were free. Many investigators feared the criminals would never be caught. A critical mistake. But criminals often make mistakes. Some members of the group began to argue about the money. They did not trust each other. Eventually, one man made a decision. He decided to talk to the police. This confession changed everything. The FBI finally learned the names of the robbers. The arrests. In 1956, almost 6 years after the robbery, police began arresting the criminals. The arrests happened just days before the legal time limit for the crime. If police had waited longer, the robbers could not be punished. The trial became famous across the country. Several members of the gang were found guilty. They received long prison sentences. The missing money. But there was still one big mystery. Most of the stolen money was never recovered. only a small part of the millions was found. To this day, no one knows exactly where the rest of the money went. Some people believe it was hidden. Others think it was secretly spent over many years. The Brinks robbery became one of the most famous crimes in American history. It was called the crime of the century. The criminals planned carefully. They worked fast, and for years they escaped justice. But in the end, the truth came out. Even the most perfect crime can eventually fall apart.
Another dark chapter closed, but the mystery of human nature continues. Thanks for listening to True Crime Stories for English Learners. Don't forget to subscribe and join me next time for another real story that's stranger than fiction.